So today we're going to go over, statistics and scripts that protect sellers from overpricing before they even hit the market. Um, Scripts and stats on buyer urgency, on how to help your buyers really capitalize on the market momentum is the reason that they need to act now. So here's what, right, June is showing us. Number of sales is up, total volume is up, median days on market is still only 10. Pending listings are up, new listings are up. So these are all really indicative of the summer market that we usually see every year with an uptick in almost every single category. And this matters, right? Because with new listings up and new buyer activity up and pendings up, there is more competition on the board. Um, but despite increased listings, the median days on market is still only 10, right? So that means you've got a little over a week to get your buyer into a property, or you've got a little bit over a week for your seller to accept an offer if you have both of them positioned right. Right, there's urgency on both sides of the market for both buyers and sellers. And it's important that you understand how each of those different scenarios can play out. Um, so if you overprice it, right, homes that sold immediately sold at about 99% list to sale price. Homes that sat for 60 days sold 5% under list price. And homes that sat the longest on the market were at 12% below list price. Also, nationwide, NAR reported that almost 40% of all listings required a price reduction. And so the longer a home sits on the market, the deeper the eventual discount the seller is going to have to take off of their list price. And so overpricing, when sellers say, hey, let's just price it a little bit high, we'll wait and see, that's not a strategy that works in this market. It's just a discount that they're eventually going to have to make on a really long, slow, and kind of painful process that they're going to have to go through. The first half of 2026, 1 in 3 sellers had to make a price adjustment at least one time. And so every week that your listings are sitting on the market past that 10-day median days on market window, the market is saying this home is overpriced. And every day after that, buyers are going to say, hey, there's not enough value in here for me to pay this price. So the negotiation power switches from the seller to the buyer. And again, we can kind of talk about how you can leverage both of these points, but for sellers, it's critically important that you guys are pricing correctly from the start. And I know it's difficult. It's hard to figure out what that magic number is going to be. So the more you can get educated on what the market is showing, what properties are selling for, what buyers are willing to pay for properties, the better you can educate your sellers to get it right from the beginning. For buyers, right, we've heard this probably till we're all blue in the face the last couple of years that, oh, I'm just going to wait until rates drop. In May of this year, 62% of buyers said they're going to hold off until rates drop in the fall. But that same 62% said the exact same thing last year, and rates never dropped. In that same time period, home prices went up, or since 2022, home prices have gone up 17%, even if rates have gotten higher, and as rates have not dropped. So those buyers that are waiting for rates to drop are wasting a lot of time and money because, right, we can't predict what rates are going to do. They're going to tell us something different every single day. You go to 4 different news channels, they might all tell you something different as well. And so every 0.5% that a rate increases, it cuts that purchasing power from a buyer by 5%. So that 5% of lost purchasing power is the cost of waiting, and that's what you need to educate buyers on. So let's go through a couple scenarios. This is the seller who wants to overprice or test the market at a higher value. They see more competition, more buyers out there, and they assume that that's going to mean that they can push the purchase or the listing price of their property and just wait and see what happens. But you should say something to them, right? Like, I know it feels like there's more competition, and that's true, right? Listing inventory is up and pending offers are up. But here's what the data shows: homes that are priced and positioned correctly are selling in under 10 days, which is identical to last year, and buyers aren't slowing down. So the market isn't pushing sellers for more inventory, it's punishing sellers who price wrong. Excuse me. Right, if we price your property correctly from the first day we hit the market, we're not going to compete with all the other active listings in the neighborhood or the community or the town. We're going to stand out from them. We're going to incentivize all of those buyers and all that competition out there to come buy your house, not the other one down the street. And these sellers might say, right, like, okay, well, let's just start high. We can always come down later. It's important for them to understand that the perception of a house that sits on the market past 10 days is that there must be something wrong with it, right? The buyers aren't saying, oh, this property is probably still in pristine condition and a really great purchase, it's just overpriced. They're saying, hey, if nobody bought this in the first 10 days, there's got to be something wrong with it. And so pricing correctly from day one isn't about getting the number right. It's about not falling behind the market that is moving at a rapid speed. I was talking to my clients that are selling their house in Madison, and we talked about this, right? And some of you that work the Madison market, you get a whole new crop of listings that hit, Tuesday, Wednesday of any given week. A lot of them go under contract by the next Monday or Tuesday. The ones that sit get lost under the crop of the new ones that are going to come on next week. And so all the buyers, right? The whole buyer pool shifts to the new inventory that's coming on, and a few other ones sit. And the same thing is happening week after week after week. And so the longer your listing is sitting and falling right kind of under the pile of new inventory, buyers are not even considering it anymore. I think there's a huge opportunity here for those of you that are working with buyers to go back and look at the listings that have been sitting, 20, 30 days and find opportunities for your buyers there. Because like I said, the majority of the buyer pool has already moved on to the new inventory and they're fighting over it over in this pool. But for your sellers, right, this is why it's important to price correctly from day one so that that buyer pool doesn't move on. Scenario two, right? In this situation, you might be working with a buyer who's like, oh, we're just going to take a break. We're going to pause for a little bit. We're going to wait for more inventory to hit the market so there's less competition. How many of you guys have heard that one before? Right? You can educate your buyers by saying something like, hey, I understand why you think more inventory might mean less competition because it feels like there might be less pressure, but pending sales are up almost 10% from last year. More buyers are locking down contracts and buying houses than they were 12 months ago. And so more inventory isn't giving buyers more breathing room. What it's doing is it's giving serious buyers more to choose from, and they're still moving fast. So the homes that are going to check your boxes and meet your needs for whatever this purchase means to you, they're not going to sit around and wait for you to be ready. You have to be on the offensive here. How many of you, I'm sure you can all probably raise your hand on this one, but the buyers who see a house, think they really like it, but they're like, oh, we're just going to wait to see more because maybe something else is going to come up. Right? I had buyers that I drug around for 6 months, always waiting for the next one. And it's important to understand too, right? What is their motivation there? What are they actually looking for? But making sure that they're ready to commit when the right one shows up. Because the house that they think they could buy today might not be available, right, 30 days from now when they're waiting to see. Or maybe this is a really good fit. And so this is kind of that part of being a salesperson that, at the beginning I said is kind of a fine art, because you could let buyers dictate their search. And again, consumer transparency, you should always, right, take the advice of your buyer or seller, but you have a responsibility too when you're working with them to get them to the goal that they are trying to achieve. And so helping them understand You're right. You could wait and see and go look at houses for the next 5 years until that dream home hits the market. But if you're serious about buying a house right now, we need to find one that checks your boxes, works for your family or your lifestyle or whatever you're trying to achieve here. And you need to commit to it and try to get under contract. Because the wait and see and continue to wait for more inventory is also what everybody else is doing. And I think this is a really good conversation that can be a temperature check on, are your buyers actually serious about buying a house or are they just casually looking? So, this week's challenge, I'm going to get you guys out of here quick today. I want you to use the pricing script at your next listing appointment. Lead with the stats on what days on market looks like for that area, that community, that neighborhood, and show them the cost of overpricing. Pull some listings that have sat for 30 or 60 days, show them the price reductions that have been made, and give them that percentage of, if we overprice, here's what could likely happen. For buyers, right? Go call a bunch of buyers that you've been working with that might be kind of those fence sitters or the waiting to see if rates are going to drop or waiting to see if more inventory comes. And use that script on them. Help them get re-engaged and motivated to make a purchase in the next 10 or 20 days. And then let me know how that goes. Anybody have examples of sellers or buyers that you're working with right now that these scripts could work on? Come
Yeah,
on.
I do. I mean, I have buyers right now that we've written 8 offers. They're serious. It's just um, the competition is stiff. They're looking for under 450 is their max, but they want to stay at 425. But they want an updated house. So I've shifted to, you know, you're not going to find that. You're not going to win that. We're competing in cash. You need to find a house that has, you know, minor updates that are cosmetic. And I'm throwing out like what it costs to remodel a bathroom, just to give them an idea on, so, and I just had a seller that exactly what you said. He wanted to overprice. I told him multiple times, you're better off going in low and let the market decide, because if you go in lower, you could get a bidding war and it could, reach that point. Nope, nope. That's what I want to do right before the day of list. So Renee, do you still think my price point is okay? I said, no, I don't. I told you my opinion. And sure enough, he ended up taking a $30,000 um, you know, offer that was $30,000 less because it sat on the market.
Imagine that. The
Imagine
offer
that.
that, yeah, the offer that he ended up accepting, how did that compare to the list price that you had recommended?
It was about 5,000 off.
Isn't there a little bit of little bit of satisfaction in that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, that's a good story to use it in future listing appointments,
Mhm.
without having to say names or addresses or anything like that. But had he listed at your list price, he maybe could have gotten 10 or 15,000 above that.
Exactly. Because that first wave of people, and I explained all of that.
Yeah.
I know this person, they're a good friend of ours, and I know his mindset, and there was no changing his mind. So I tried, but he did admit, he goes, I should have listened to you. I go, well, at least we got an offer and you're moving forward.
Yep.
I didn't rub it in
Yeah,
his face.
I have a great example of that too, which Renee is also a friend of mine, and she way overpriced the listing. The price I told her I thought it would sell for after 6 months and three price reductions, we got that price. And it's such a good feeling.
It is. Yeah. It's like we do know what we're doing.
Yep.
But I mean, the market will tell them and like you said, they say, well, listen, I would rather go higher and come down. And it's like, that's not how it works, especially for buyer agents that are educating their buyers that you shouldn't even be looking at this house where it's priced, because you're going to, they know they're going to have to pay in this market. They think they may have to pay over, and they're going to be in a bidding war, because that's kind of what it's been, right? That's what we're educating our buyers. So, you know, these sellers are missing out on it, people even looking at their house because of that.
Yeah.
There's no way we're going to get it. So you're eliminating a pool of people that, and we also know that they say that's their max, but if they really want it, they seem to somehow find the money to get it. So
Yeah. I always like to say when sellers are in that conversation about wanting to price high and come down, I say, all right, let's just play a little game. Let's pretend, right, 30 days from now, I'm sitting back at your kitchen table. You're frustrated because your house hasn't sold. I'm in a tough position because I'm here to tell you that we need to make a price adjustment and drop the price by 30,000. How would that make you feel? And they'd go, I don't know, probably pretty frustrated. And I say, okay, let's scenario two. We list your house. I'm here 7 days later with 3 offers in hand, 15,000 over the price that I'm recommending. How would that make you feel? And they go, that'd be pretty cool. And I'm like, all
yeah,
right, the choice is yours. And if
yeah,
they still choose to overprice, right, they've already admitted to you that they're going to be frustrated, but you've kind of laid out the exact scenarios on the table and it's up to them to choose.
I like that script.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I do too. Because I think sellers, you know, it's a seller's market. It's a seller's market. Prices are so high. Oh, I could get this. The guy down the street got that. You know,
Yep.
but you know, they're hearing bits and pieces of what's really actually happening and not understanding, you know, the ins and outs that we do. So that's a really good scenario
Yeah.
to
I agree.
yeah.
All righty, everyone. Thanks for showing up this morning. Keep up the good work. Have a good summer. Stay warm. I mean, stay cool. It's good. Stay
Thank
warm here.
you. Have a good
Yeah.
day.
All righty.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Hello. Hey, yes.